The council chamber stretched high above the delegates, its crystal dome showing the stars of 1,000 worlds. Ambassador Park Ji-woo stood alone at the human podium, watching as the voting display turned red. Resolution 7749 had passed with overwhelming support. Humanity would be confined to the Sol system. Everything beyond Earth, Mars, and the outer planets now belonged to the Galactic Council. The Vrelian High Chancellor raised 3 of his 4 arms in triumph. His voice boomed through the chamber. The dangerous species has been contained. The galaxy is safe. Park Ji-woo looked at the alien faces around him. The bird-like Cathari chirped in celebration. The massive Gorath delegates stamped their feet on the floor. The crystalline silicates chimed in harmony. They were all celebrating the defeat of humanity. He had spent 12 years in this chamber. 12 years of watching the treaties pile up, each one taking something away from his people. First came the military restrictions. Human warships could not exceed certain sizes. Human weapons technology had strict limits. Then came the trade barriers. Humans paid triple taxes on all goods. Human merchants needed special permits that took years to obtain. Finally, the colonization bans arrived. Humans could not settle on worlds with certain minerals. Humans could not build stations near major trade routes. Humans could not expand beyond a handful of approved systems. Every treaty had legal language that sounded fair. Every restriction had reasons that seemed logical. But Park Ji-woo knew the truth. The Council feared humanity. They feared what humans might become. So they built a cage made of laws and called it peace. Ambassador Park, the Chancellor said, do you accept the terms of Resolution 7749? And Park Ji-woo picked up his data tablet. He had prepared a speech. He had written passionate words about justice and fairness. He had crafted arguments using the Council's own laws. But now, standing in this chamber full of aliens who had already decided humanity's fate, those words seemed pointless. I have a message from Earth, he said simply. His voice was calm. Humanity does not accept Resolution 7749. We do not accept any treaty signed under threat. We do not accept a system that treats us as prisoners, rather than partners. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted and gestured. The Chancellor's scales flushed dark purple with anger. Park Ji-woo continued speaking as if he heard none of it. For 30 years, humanity has tried to work within your system. We have followed your rules. We have paid your fees. We have accepted your restrictions. We did this because we believed in the possibility of fair treatment. He closed his data tablet. We were wrong. This council does not want peace. It wants control. Therefore, humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council agreements. Effective immediately. The chamber fell silent. The Chancellor stared at him. You cannot withdraw. The treaties are binding. Treaties signed under duress are not legally binding, Park Ji-woo replied. Your own galactic law, Article 47, Section 9. I memorized every word of your laws, Chancellor. Every single word. He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the shocked silence. If you leave Council space, you will be alone. The Chancellor called after him. Humanity will have no allies, no trade partners, no protection. Park Ji-woo stopped at the door. He looked back one last time. We have been alone since the day we met you. The only difference now is that we are being honest about it. The door sealed behind him. His shuttle lifted off from the station within the hour. As he watched the council headquarters shrink into the distance, Park Ji-woo allowed himself a small smile. The council thought they had won. They thought humanity would collapse without their support. They had no idea what was coming. 10 light-years away, Admiral Choi Sung-hee received the encrypted signal on her command ship. 3 flashes of light in a specific pattern. It was the code they had been waiting for. She turned to her crew and gave the order they had prepared for over a decade. Activate protocol scattered stars. Send the signal to all human colonies. The message spread through secret channels. It reached mining colonies on the edge of explored space. It reached research stations hidden in nebulas. It reached settlements that the Council did not even know existed. 47 human colonies received the same instruction. Go dark. Communication arrays powered down. Transponders went silent. Trade ships changed their identification codes. In the space of 6 hours, humanity vanished from Council monitoring systems. In the Council Intelligence Center on Vrella Prime, analysts stared at their screens in confusion. Human signals were disappearing. A technician called his supervisor. "Sir, we are losing contact with human settlements." The supervisor barely looked up from his own work. "They are probably shutting down. The humans know they cannot survive without us. Let them learn their lesson." But in a secret facility buried beneath the ice of Europa, General Kang Min-jun watched different screens. These showed the real human colonies, the hidden shipyards, the supply networks that the Council had never detected. He saw green lights appearing across the display as each location confirmed receipt of the activation order. 30 years of planning. 30 years of smiling and signing unfair treaties while secretly building something the Council could never imagine. The aliens thought humans were desperate and weak. They thought humanity would accept any terms just to survive in galactic civilization. They were about to learn how wrong they were. General Kang opened a channel to all military commands. "All units. This is Kang. The ambassador has done his part. Now we do ours. Operation Scattered Stars is active. Repeat. Operation Scattered Stars is active." Across human space, soldiers and civilians alike received the message. Some felt fear. Some felt excitement. But all of them felt the same grim satisfaction. The time for diplomacy had ended. The time for action had begun. In the council chamber, the delegates were already celebrating. The Cathari proposed a toast to the successful containment of the dangerous Deathworlders. The Gorath suggested dividing human territory among loyal council members. The Chancellor ordered a report on human assets that could be seized. None of them noticed the first signs. Small disruptions in trade routes. Minor communication delays. Ships arriving late at checkpoints. The galaxy was vast, and small problems happened every day. But these were not small problems. These were the first moves in a strategy that humanity had been preparing for 3 decades. The Council had taught humans many things. They had taught them galactic law. They had taught them trade networks. They had taught them which systems mattered most. Now humanity would teach the Council something in return. They would teach them what happened when you cornered a species from a death world. They would teach them what happened when you mistook patience for weakness. The galaxy was about to change, and the Council had no idea it was coming. 20 years earlier, the meeting room on Mars had no windows. General Kang Min-jun, much younger then, sat at a table with 11 other people. They represented Earth's governments, corporations, and military forces. All of them looked exhausted. They had been arguing for 6 hours. "We cannot keep signing these treaties," said President Morrison. "Each one takes more from us. Soon, we will have nothing left. If we refuse to sign, they will enforce compliance," replied Admiral Chen. "The Council has 3,000 warships. We have 200. The math is simple." Kang Min-jun had stayed quiet during most of the meeting. Now he spoke. "What if we do both?" Everyone turned to look at him. "Explain," said President Morrison. "We sign their treaties," Kang said. "We smile and bow and accept their terms, but while we do that, we build something they cannot see. We create colonies they do not know about. We develop technology in secret. We prepare for the day when we are strong enough to say no." "That would take decades," someone objected. "Yes," Kang replied. "It would, But do we have a better option? The room fell silent. Finally, President Morrison nodded. Tell us your plan. That night, Operation Scattered Stars was born. It was not a military operation, though it needed soldiers. It was not a colonization program, though it needed settlers. It was something bigger. It was humanity's insurance policy against extinction. The plan was simple in concept but complex in execution. Humanity would continue to follow Council rules in all the places where the Council was watching. But in the dark spaces between stars, in nebulas and asteroid fields, in systems too poor or dangerous for other species, humans would build a second civilization. A hidden civilization. For 20 years, it worked. Transport ships declared cargo for one destination, but delivered it to another. Mining operations reported half their true output. Research stations in approved locations secretly built smaller stations in forbidden zones. Colonists officially headed to Council-approved worlds, but actually settled on hidden planets. The Council never noticed. Their intelligence services were designed to watch for military buildups and large-scale movements. They looked for obvious threats. They never imagined that humans might be patient enough to build power slowly, piece by piece, over generations. Captain Lee Soo-jin had been born on one of these hidden colonies. New Jeju existed in the records as a small research station with 50 personnel. In reality, it housed 5,000 people. She grew up learning 2 sets of laws. The official council regulations that everyone had to memorize, and the real human laws that governed daily life. Why do we have to hide? She had asked her mother once, when she was young. Her mother had knelt down to look her in the eyes. Because the galaxy is not ready to treat us fairly. So we prepare. We grow strong. And one day, we will not need to hide anymore. Lee Soo-jin joined the military at 18. She trained on ships that officially did not exist. She learned tactics that were technically illegal under Council law. She became very good at operating in secret. By the time she was 30, she commanded her own vessel, a frigate named the Hidden Tiger. Now, at 35, she waited in the shadow of a gas giant with her entire squadron. They had been here for 3 days, engines cold, waiting for the activation signal. When it came, she felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. All ships, this is Lee. She broadcast on the encrypted channel. We have our orders. Power up all systems. Plot course for the Antaris Gate. We launch in 2 hours. The Antaris Gate was one of the most important locations in Council space. It was a natural hyperspace phenomenon that made travel between 3 major sectors fast and easy. 70% of Council trade passed through the Antaris Gate. Humanity had studied it for decades. They knew its defenses. They knew its schedules. They knew exactly how to take it. Across the galaxy, similar operations were beginning. In the Serpent Nebula, human teams prepared to seize relay stations. Near the Kethari homeworld, infiltrators moved into position around communication hubs. At the edge of Vrelian territory, troops checked their equipment one final time. On Vrela Prime, the Council intelligence analysts were finally starting to worry. It had been 12 hours since human colonies went silent. That was unusual, but not impossible. What concerned them more were the other reports. Ships missing checkpoints. Strange energy readings in supposedly empty space. Minor equipment failures at important facilities. Should we alert the military? A junior analyst asked. The senior analyst shook his head. The humans are probably just throwing a tantrum. They will come back when they get hungry. Do not waste the fleet's time. This was exactly what humanity had counted on. The Council had spent so long seeing humans as weak and desperate that they could not imagine anything else. They saw the signs, but interpreted them wrong. By the time they understood what was happening, it would be too late. Dr. Park Hee-won worked in a facility that officially did not exist. Her specialty was galactic law, and she had spent 15 years studying every treaty, every regulation, every legal precedent in Council history. She had found something interesting. The Council's own laws were full of holes and contradictions. For example, the Council had claimed authority over certain trade routes and hyperspace lanes, but they had never properly filed territorial claims on much of the space between systems. Technically, under their own laws, that space was neutral. Anyone could operate there. The Council had simply assumed no one would challenge them. Park Hee-won had documented hundreds of these legal gaps. She had prepared briefs on Council treaty violations. She had collected evidence of crimes committed by Council members. All of it was organized and ready to use. When humanity made its move, they would not just use force. They would use law. Back on Earth, Ambassador Park Ji-woo met with the human leadership in a secure bunker. "The Council thinks we have given up," he reported. "They are not mobilizing their forces. They are not investigating the signal losses. We have a window, but it will not last long." General Kang pulled up a holographic display. It showed the galaxy with green markers scattered across it. Each marker was a human operation preparing to launch. "All teams report ready. We can begin the strikes in 48 hours. President Morrison, older now but still sharp, studied the display. "Once we start this, there is no going back. The Council will respond with everything they have." "Yes," Kang agreed. "But we will not be fighting a war. We will be making a point. We will show them that humanity can reach anywhere in the galaxy. That their so-called containment failed. That we demand to be treated as equals, not prisoners." "And if they refuse?" asked one of the other leaders. Park Hye-won spoke up. "Then we release the evidence we have collected. Every illegal action. Every treaty violation. Every crime. We show the galaxy what kind of organization the Council really is. We force them to negotiate or lose all credibility." The room was quiet as everyone considered the risks. Finally, President Morrison spoke. "General Kang, give the order. Operation Scattered Stars proceeds to Phase 2. Kang nodded and opened his communication channel. "All units, this is Kang. Operation proceeds as planned. Execute your assignments. Show them what humanity can do. But remember, we are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We fight for our place in the galaxy. Not to dominate it. Make every shot count. Minimize casualties. Be precise. Be professional. Show them that we deserve respect." The acknowledgements came back from across the stars. Thousands of humans preparing to act. Some were nervous. Some were confident. But all of them understood what was at stake. This was humanity's moment to step out of the shadows and demand recognition. Captain Lee Soo-jin checked her chronometer. 47 hours until her squadron reached the Antaris Gate. 47 hours until the galaxy discovered that humanity had never been contained at all. They had just been waiting for the right moment. The Antaris Gate hung in space like a glowing wound in reality. Captain Lee Soo-jin watched it through the view screen of the hidden tiger. The gate was not a structure built by any species. It was a natural phenomenon. A place where space folded in ways that made hyperspace travel faster and more efficient. 6 defense stations surrounded it. Automated weapons platforms drifted in patrol patterns. Council warships moved in regular routes through the area. Lee Soo-jin studied the defenses one more time. She had memorized them weeks ago, but checking again felt right. "All ships report status," she ordered. Her squadron consisted of 12 frigates and 8 support craft. They were not heavy warships. They did not have the firepower to fight the Council's defenders head-on. But they did not need to. Humanity's strategy was not about destroying. It was about taking and holding. "All ships ready, Captain," her first officer reported. "Infiltration teams confirm they are in position." Lee Soo-jin smiled. The infiltration teams were the key. For 3 months, human operatives disguised as maintenance workers, traders, and travelers had been slowly moving into position on the defense stations. They had forged documents, created false identities, and bribed their way into jobs that gave them access to critical systems. Now, at this moment, 73 human operatives were waiting inside the enemy's defenses. "Send the signal," Lee Soo-jin ordered. The encrypted burst transmission flashed across space. On Defense Station 3, Engineer Kim Tae-hyung received it on his hidden communicator. He looked at his partner, Specialist Rivera. They nodded to each other and moved into action. Kim had been working on this station for 6 weeks. He knew every corridor, every system, every security checkpoint. He walked calmly to the power distribution center, while Rivera headed to the communications hub. Other team members were already moving to their assigned positions. The council security officers never suspected anything. Why would they? Kim had excellent forged credentials. He was quiet and did his work well. He was just another maintenance worker in a station that employed hundreds. Kim reached the power center and entered his access code. It worked. He pulled up the station's main power grid on his console and began making very specific changes. He rerouted power from weapons systems to life support. He created cascading failures in targeting computers. He locked out override commands with code sequences that would take hours to break. Within 90 seconds, Defense Station 3 lost most of its offensive capability. Kim then calmly walked toward the nearest escape pod bay, where other team members were gathering. Across the Antaris Gate perimeter, similar actions were happening on all 6 defense stations and 3 of the patrol ships. Human operatives, disabled weapons, locked down systems, and evacuated to predetermined locations. The entire operation took 4 minutes. Captain Lee Soo-jin watched her tactical display as green confirmation lights appeared. Stations neutralized. All teams evacuating. Begin. Approach. Her squadron emerged from the shadow of a nearby moon and accelerated toward the Antaris Gate. The remaining council ships detected them immediately and scrambled to respond. But with half their defensive network offline and the other half confused, their response was disorganized. "Incoming fire from Patrol Group 7, her weapons officer called out. "Evasive pattern Delta," Lee Soo-jin ordered. "Do not return fire unless necessary. We are here to take territory, not start a massacre." The hidden tiger twisted through space, avoiding most of the incoming weapons. A few shots struck their shields, but the damage was minor. The squadron's support ships moved ahead, launching a cloud of electronic countermeasures that jammed targeting systems and created false sensor readings. The Council forces found themselves fighting blind. Their sensors showed dozens of ships where only 20 existed. Their weapons could not get clear locks. Their communication with the defense stations was filled with errors and delays. Lee Soo-jin pushed her advantage. "All ships, secure the gate perimeter. Deployment teams, launch now." Troop transports shot out from her frigates and raced toward the disabled defense stations. Each transport carried 30 soldiers and engineers. Their mission was to board the stations, secure critical systems, and prepare to hold against counterattacks. On Defense Station 3, the Council security team finally understood what had happened. But by the time they reached the power center, human troops were already docking at the main airlock. The station commander tried to organize resistance, but his people were technicians and security officers, not trained soldiers. When the human troops came through the airlock with military precision and overwhelming force, the station surrendered in less than 10 minutes. Similar scenes played out across all 6 stations. By the time Council reinforcements could be scrambled from nearby systems, humanity controlled every defense platform around the Antaris Gate. Lee Soo-jin broadcast a message on all Council frequencies. "This is Captain Lee Soo-jin of the Human Defense Force. We have secured the Antaris Gate under authority of Galactic Law Article 47, Section 12, which states that unclaimed neutral space may be occupied by any galactic nation. The territory surrounding this gate was never properly claimed by the Council. Therefore, it is now under human control." The response came from a Vrelian admiral on an approaching warship. "You cannot claim Council territory. Surrender immediately, or we will destroy you. You mean the territory the council never filed legal claims for? Li Sujin replied calmly. The territory that, according to your own laws, has been neutral space for 300 years? We have the documentation. Would you like us to share it with the galaxy? There was a long pause. The Admiral had no response prepared for this. He had expected a military confrontation, not a legal argument. While the Admiral tried to figure out what to do, similar operations were completing across Council space. At the Serpent Nebula, human teams had seized 7 relay stations. Near the Cathari homeworld, communication hubs were now under human control. At critical trade junctions, mining facilities, and hyperspace waypoints, humanity was planting its flag in 17 different locations. The galaxy's communication networks lit up with confused reports. Human forces had appeared simultaneously across thousands of light years. They had taken critical infrastructure without warning. They had disabled defenses with insider knowledge. And they had done it all with minimal casualties. In the Council Emergency Session Chamber, chaos ruled. The delegates shouted at each other, demanding explanations. How had humanity managed this? Where did they get the ships? How did they have operatives in so many locations? The Vrelian High Chancellor pounded his arms on his desk. This is an act of war. We must respond with full military force. On what legal grounds? Asked the Silicate representative, whose species valued law above all else. They are claiming neutral territory. Territory that we never properly documented as ours. That is a technicality. The Chancellor roared. No, said the Silicate. It is the law you wrote. On Earth, in the secure bunker, Dr. Park Hee-won went live on galactic broadcasts. Her message reached every world in Council space, citizens of the galaxy. For 30 years, humanity has attempted to work within the Galactic Council system. We have signed unfair treaties. We have accepted unreasonable restrictions. We have paid excessive fees and followed discriminatory rules. We did this because we believed in the rule of law. Her image appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. But the Council does not believe in the rule of law. They believe in the rule of power. They wrote laws to cage humanity. But those same laws also create opportunities. We have studied your legal system. We have found every contradiction, every loophole, every clause that you never expected anyone to use against you. She displayed documents on the screen behind her. These are records of Council treaty violations, war crimes, illegal territorial seizures, corruption, murder. For decades, Council members have broken their own laws while forcing others to follow them. We have proof of all of it. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Dr. Park continued. Humanity is now in control of 17 critical locations in neutral space. We did not invade Council territory. We claimed unclaimed land. We will hold these positions until the Council agrees to honest negotiations. Negotiations between equals, not between masters and servants. She paused, letting her words sink in. If the Council chooses to attack us, we will defend ourselves. And we will release every piece of evidence we have collected. The galaxy will see what kind of organization truly leads them. The choice is yours. Back at the Antaris Gate, Captain Li Sujin received reports from her garrison commanders. All stations were secure. Defenses were being reinforced. Engineers were already studying Council systems and preparing to integrate them with human technology. A Council fleet of 30 warships had arrived and now held position 5,000 kilometers away. They had the firepower to destroy Li Sujin's small squadron easily. But they were not attacking. 30-17, Li Sujin's, they were waiting for orders. Orders that were not coming, because the Council leadership was too busy arguing about what to do. Li Sujin allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The plan was working. Humanity had not conquered anyone. They had not destroyed any cities or killed any civilians. They had simply done what they had learned from the Council itself. They had used power, law, and timing to take what they wanted. The galaxy was learning a new lesson today. Humanity could be patient. Humanity could plan. And when humanity decided to act, they could move with precision and force that surprised everyone. The Council had taught humans how the galaxy worked. Now humans were showing them what happened when the student surpassed the teacher. The emergency council session had been going for 8 hours. The Vrelian High Chancellor's scales had turned from purple to almost black with fury. Around him, delegates argued, shouted, and blamed each other for the disaster that had befallen them. "How did we not know about their hidden colonies?" demanded the Cathari speaker, his feathers ruffled in agitation. "Your intelligence services assured us that humanity was contained," countered a Gorath representative, his massive frame shaking with anger. "My intelligence services?" The Cathari shot back. "The Vrelians controlled security, oversight." The Chancellor slammed all 4 arms on his desk. "Enough! The question now is not how this happened. The question is how we respond. I propose full military mobilization. We crush these human positions, execute their leaders for terrorism, and scatter their species across the galaxy as laborers." Several delegates nodded in agreement, but others looked uncertain. The silicate representative spoke, his crystalline voice cutting through the noise. "That would be illegal under Council law. They have not invaded our territory. They have occupied neutral space. That is a technicality." The Chancellor growled. "The law is made of technicalities," the silicate replied. "If we ignore our own laws, what authority do we have? Authority comes from power," the Chancellor declared. "We have 3,000 warships. They have a few hundred vessels and 17 fortified positions. We can end this in a week. Number third. Arman it." But even as he spoke, reports were coming in that contradicted his confidence. The human positions were not as weak as expected. They had deployed defense systems that Council intelligence had never seen before. They had military equipment that exceeded their treaty-allowed specifications. Worse, they had clearly studied Council military tactics and prepared counters for them. A Vrelian admiral appeared on the communication screen. "Chancellor, I must report that an assault on the Antaris Gate would be costly. The humans have transformed those defense stations into fortresses. They have mined the approaches. They have overlapping fields of fire. We could take it eventually, but we would lose dozens of ships and thousands of crew." "Then we lose them," the Chancellor roared. "We cannot let humans dictate terms to us." "With respect, Chancellor," the Admiral continued carefully, "we would need to assault 17 positions simultaneously. That would require deploying most of our fleet. And while we are fighting humans in neutral space, our actual territories would be vulnerable to pirates, rebels, and opportunistic attacks." The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not just taken random positions. They had taken positions that were valuable enough to matter but distant enough from Council core worlds that reclaiming them would be expensive and difficult. Then, the second blow landed. The Nexian Trade Consortium, one of the galaxy's largest economic organizations, made an announcement. They recognized humanity's claims in neutral space as legally valid under existing galactic law. They would continue trading with humans and treating them as a legitimate galactic power. Within hours, 5 other major trade organizations followed suit. They had all done the same analysis and reached the same conclusion. The humans were technically correct. The Council had no legal claim to the territory humanity now held. The Chancellor watched his support crumbling. The economic powers of the galaxy did not want a war that would disrupt trade. The legal specialists could not find grounds for military action. Even his own military advisors were warning that a campaign would be expensive. Then Dr. Park Hae-won released the first batch of evidence. The documents appeared on public networks across the galaxy. They detailed a massacre of the Pequin people by Vrelian forces 20 years ago. The Pequin had been a small species, barely 100,000 individuals. They had occupied a world rich in rare minerals. The Vrelians wanted those minerals, so they manufactured evidence of terrorist activity, obtained a council resolution authorizing military action, and then killed every Pequin they could find. The official records said it was a peacekeeping operation with minimal casualties. The human evidence showed the truth. Recordings of Vrelian commanders ordering complete extermination. Financial records of mineral shipments from the Pequin homeworld to Vrelian corporations. Testimony from soldiers who had participated in the massacre. The galaxy reacted with shock and horror. The smaller species, the ones who always feared they might be next, suddenly saw the Council in a new light. Protests erupted on a dozen worlds. 3 species announced they were withdrawing from Council membership. The Chancellor tried to claim the evidence was fabricated, but experts analyzed it and confirmed it was genuine. The Vrelian government had committed genocide, and the Council had helped cover it up. Release more, General Kang ordered from his command center on Europa. Show them we have everything. The second release targeted the Cathari. It revealed how their corporations had used slave labor from conquered species, disguising it as cultural exchange programs. The third release exposed Gorath military operations in neutral space, attacking independent colonies and claiming the resources. Each revelation drove another wedge between Council members. Species that had worked together for centuries suddenly looked at each other with suspicion and anger. The Silicate delegation walked out of the Council chamber entirely, declaring they would not participate in a corrupt institution. The Chancellor called an emergency meeting with his closest allies. "We must negotiate," one advisor said quietly. "We are losing control of the Council itself." "We cannot negotiate from weakness," the Chancellor insisted. "Then we negotiate from reality," replied the advisor. "The humans are not going away. They have resources we did not know about. They have capabilities we did not expect. And they have made it impossible for us to remove them without tearing the Council apart. We can fight them and destroy ourselves in the process. Or we can accept that the galaxy has changed." The Vrelian Compact, traditional military power of the Council, made one last attempt to prove their dominance. They assembled a fleet of 200 warships and launched an attack on human positions in the Sentinel sector. It was meant to be a show of overwhelming force, a demonstration that the Council could still crush anyone who defied them. The human garrison commander in the Sentinel sector was Colonel Jin Seoyon. She had fought in border skirmishes against pirates for 15 years. She knew how to defend fortified positions. When the Vrelian fleet arrived, she was ready. The Vrelians expected the humans to either surrender or fight a desperate defensive battle. Instead, Jin did something unexpected. She opened fire first. Her ships, outnumbered but positioned perfectly, struck at the Vrelian formation's weak points. Missiles and energy weapons targeted command vessels and carrier groups. Point defense systems shot down incoming fire with precision that shocked the Vrelian commanders. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vrelians had lost 37 ships, including 2 carriers. Human losses were 4 frigates and 1 defense platform. The Vrelian fleet retreated in disorder. The defeat sent waves of shock through the Council. The Vrelian military, the force that had kept Council authority for 3 centuries, had been beaten by a small human garrison. If humanity could do that in one sector, what would happen if the Council tried to attack all 17 positions? General Kang released another message to the galaxy. "The Vrelians attacked human forces today. We defended ourselves and prevailed. This is not what we wanted. We did not seek war. We sought recognition and equality. But we will defend our positions and our people. We proved today that we have the capability to do so." He paused, then continued. "We are also releasing evidence related to today's attack. The Vrelian government declared publicly that they were responding to human aggression. The truth is different. We have recordings of their planning sessions. They initiated this attack to demonstrate power. They failed. We ask the galaxy to witness who the real aggressors are. Omer. 5-line. Real aggressors are. End quote. Ambassador Park Ji-woo returned to his quarters after another day of unofficial negotiations. Various species had been reaching out quietly, trying to find a path forward. Some wanted peace. Some wanted to ensure they would not be next if the council fell apart completely. Some were already positioning themselves for the new order they saw coming. He received a message on his secure channel. It was from President Morrison on Earth. The council is fragmenting. 6 more species have announced they are leaving. The Chancellor's position is weakening. We are winning. Park sat down heavily. Are we? He replied. We have broken the council, but what comes next? Chaos? War between former allies? We wanted equality, not destruction. Sometimes you must break something before you can rebuild it properly, Morrison answered. Stand ready. The council will call for negotiations soon. When they do, we need to have a vision for what the galaxy should become. Park looked out at the stars. Humanity had struck back against oppression and won. But winning the conflict was only the first step. Building a better future would be much harder. He just hoped humans and aliens alike were ready for the challenge. The neutral station hung in deep space, far from any claimed territory. It had been built specifically for these negotiations. No species had advantage here. No military forces were allowed within 10 light years. This was neutral ground in every sense. Ambassador Park Ji-woo walked through the station's corridors toward the conference chamber. 6 months had passed since humanity's strikes. 6 months of tension, small conflicts, and gradual change. The old Galactic Council had collapsed 3 months ago, when 12 species officially withdrew. What remained was a fractured collection of alliances, each trying to figure out the new reality. The Vrelian High Chancellor had been removed from power by his own people. The Cathari government had fallen amid corruption scandals. The Gorath were dealing with internal rebellions. The galaxy was reshaping itself, sometimes peacefully, sometimes not. Park entered the chamber and found representatives from 43 species already seated. Not all of them had been part of the old council. Some were smaller nations that the council had ignored or suppressed. They were here because humanity had invited them. This was not a council of powerful species dictating to the weak. This was meant to be a true assembly of equals. The silicate representative, Elder Crystalline, called the meeting to order. His species had agreed to serve as mediator. We gather to discuss the formation of a new galactic government, he began. One that learns from the failures of what came before. A Cathari delegate spoke up, his voice careful and humble. His species had learned humility in recent months. The old council claimed to serve all species, but it served the powerful. How do we ensure this new system is different? Known. I haven't Lee's. Offer now. Park had spent months preparing for this moment. We start with 3 principles, he said. First, representation must be real. Every species gets a voice, not just the militarily powerful. Second, the law must apply equally to everyone. No special privileges for founders or major powers. Third, there must be checks on power. No single species or group should be able to dominate all others. Those are nice words, said a Gorath representative. But how do we enforce them? With the same thing that changed the galaxy 6 months ago, Park replied. Consequences. If a nation violates the law, they face real penalties. Economic sanctions, loss of trade rights, collective security responses. The system must have teeth. A small species called the Terrani spoke up. They had been ignored by the old council entirely. What about species like us? We have only 2 worlds and a few million people. How do we have equal voice with species that control hundreds of worlds? Population and territory give certain practical advantages, Park acknowledged. We cannot change that. But in the assembly, every species gets representation. Decisions require broad consensus, not just a majority of the powerful. One species cannot veto everything, but neither can the majority simply overrule the concerns of smaller nations. The negotiations went on for weeks. There were arguments, walkouts, and tense moments. But slowly, a structure emerged. The Galactic Federal Assembly would replace the old council. It would have 3 branches: a representative assembly, where all species had delegates, an executive council elected from the assembly for limited terms, and a judicial system with judges from multiple species interpreting galactic law. Military forces would be decentralized. No more council fleet that could be used to enforce the will of the powerful. Instead, member species would maintain their own defenses and contribute to a collective security force only in cases of genuine emergencies. Trade would be regulated to prevent monopolies and exploitation. Species that wanted to trade with each other could negotiate their own terms, but there would be basic standards protecting workers' rights and preventing slavery or debt bondage. It was not perfect. Nothing that involved so many different species with different values could be perfect, but it was better than what came before. Captain Lee Sujin stood on Defense Station 3, looking out at the Antaris Gate. Her garrison had been here for 6 months now. The council fleet that had threatened them was gone. Now ships of all species passed through the gate peacefully, paying reasonable fees that helped maintain the infrastructure. A Vrelian merchant captain had visited yesterday. "I hated you when you took this place," he admitted. "I thought you were destroyers. But trade is better now. The fees are fair. The inspections are efficient. Maybe you humans were right." Lee had not known how to respond to that. She had not done this for gratitude. She had done it because her species deserved better than what the council offered. But maybe that was enough. General Kang Min-jun retired officially on his 65th birthday. He attended a ceremony on Earth where President Morrison gave him medals and praise. But afterward, when they spoke privately, Morrison asked, "Do you think it was worth it?" Kang considered the question. "We took control of 17 positions across the galaxy. We held them for 6 months while the political situation resolved. 412 humans died in skirmishes and battles. We exposed crimes that led to the collapse of 3 governments and a complete restructuring of galactic civilization." He paused. Was it worth it? For those 412 people and their families? Perhaps not. For humanity as a whole? Yes. We are no longer caged. We are no longer treated as dangerous animals to be contained. We have a place in the galaxy. As equals. "What about the things we kept hidden?" Morrison asked quietly. Kang knew what he meant. The deadlier weapons systems. The more aggressive contingency plans. The options they had prepared but never deployed. "Those stay hidden," Kang said firmly. "We proved we could strike with precision. We proved we could defend ourselves. We proved we understood restraint. That is enough. The galaxy does not need to know everything we are capable of. Better they respect us for what we did than fear us for what we could have done." Dr. Park Hee-won's work was not finished. She led a team documenting all the old council's crimes and ensuring the records were preserved. Some wanted her to release everything immediately. She refused. "We showed enough to prove the council was corrupt," she explained. "Releasing everything would cause chaos. There are species who would collapse if all their secrets came out. We need to be strategic about truth." She kept the evidence secure but accessible. A reminder to the new Galactic Assembly that humanity still held cards they had not played. Insurance against future betrayal. 1 year after humanity's strikes, the Galactic Federal Assembly held its first full session. Delegates from 67 species attended. They debated laws, discussed trade agreements, and argued about border disputes. It was messy and sometimes frustrating. But it was fair. In In Factor 5. In Factor 5, Ambassador Park Ji-woo addressed the assembly on the anniversary. 1 year ago, humanity took a risk. We struck at the system that oppressed us. Many feared we would become conquerors. Many predicted we would abuse our power just as the Council had abused theirs. He looked around at the diverse species represented in the chamber. We did not do those things. We could have. We had the ability to cause far more damage than we did. But destruction was never our goal. Recognition was, equality was, a voice in how the galaxy is governed was. Today, we all have that voice. This assembly is not perfect. We will make mistakes. We will have disagreements. But we will have them as equals, under laws that apply to all of us. That is what we fought for. That is what we won. The applause that followed came from dozens of different species, each showing appreciation in their own way. The Cathari chirped. The Gorath stamped their feet. The Silicates chimed. And the humans clapped. Captain Lee Soo-jin eventually returned to human space and took a position training the next generation of officers. She taught them tactics and strategy, but she also taught them something else. We won because we were patient, she told her students. We won because we planned carefully. We won because we understood our enemy better than they understood us. But most importantly, we won because we knew when to stop. Power is easy to take, she continued. Using it wisely is hard. Never forget that we could have done much worse damage. We chose not to. That choice is what made the galaxy willing to work with us instead of uniting against us. On a space station at the edge of human territory, young humans and aliens trained together for the new collective security force. They learned each other's languages. They shared their cultures. They practiced joint operations. A young human soldier named Kim Min-jung ate lunch with a Vrelian cadet. 6 months ago, their species had been shooting at each other. Now they were learning to work together. Do you think our people can really trust each other? The Vrelian asked. Min-jung thought about it. Trust has to be earned. Your people did bad things. My people did aggressive things. But we are not our governments. We are individuals. We can choose to build something better. The Vrelian nodded slowly. That is a very human way of thinking. Node. 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 Maybe, Min-jung smiled. But, is it wrong? No, the Vrelian admitted. It is hopeful. And hope is what we need now. Ambassador Park Ji-woo stood on Earth, looking up at the stars. Messages came daily from across the galaxy. Trade proposals, diplomatic invitations, requests for human expertise on everything from military strategy to legal reform. Humanity had become respected. Not feared, but respected. He thought about all the years spent in the old council chamber, signing unfair treaties and accepting insults. He thought about the planning, the secrets, the risks. He thought about the people who had died in the strikes and the battles that followed. Had it been worth it? He believed it was. Humanity now had a future among the stars. Not as servants or prisoners, but as equals. The galaxy had learned that humans could be patient, strategic, and precise. They had learned that humanity deserved respect, but Park also knew that the galaxy had not learned everything. Humanity still had secrets, still had capabilities that had never been revealed, still had contingency plans that remained hidden. The galaxy respected humans for what they had done. They would never know how much more humans could have done if truly pushed. And that, Park thought, was exactly how it should be. Respect earned through demonstrated capability. Peace maintained through both cooperation and carefully calibrated deterrence. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had helped change it. And now, they would help build something better from the pieces of what had fallen apart. Not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as equals who had earned their place through patience, planning, and the wisdom to know when force was necessary and when restraint was more powerful. The stars shone overhead, and they belonged to humanity as much as any other species now. That was victory enough.